Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Please.
Come dressed up.
You're damn right I did, Lawrence.
Hot.
Yeah, some of us.
It's the European fit. European cut is what they call it.
Wow.
Some of us.
Matthew Berry via Milan and Washington.
Yeah.
It's just fitted.
Well, you know what? Some of us decided to wear a shirt, Lawrence.
Hey,
Some of us didn't.
Yeah.
it's hot outside.
I will tell you. I will tell you this: as you see Lawrence Jackson going full in Joku over there, the wardrobe department very concerned.
They was a little short on the t-shirts.
They came in and said, "Is Lawrence not wearing a shirt?" I'm like, I don't think he is.
They have an extra tuxedo shirt, so I was like, you know what? I'm going full pecs.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I think Matthew's wearing more of a skin fit than Lawrence, who's actually not.
I can see a little
literally wearing
tricep
skin.
through there too.
Yep,
Now.
that's right.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. That's right, the wardrobe department drinks for free today here at the Happy Hour bar. They might need a cold one.
The atrocities that wardrobe department has to put up with.
Speaking of, the green undershirt.
In fairness, I want to be very clear here. That is entirely my own decision. The wardrobe department has great taste. They're good. But I wore this for you guys because you made such a big deal of it. I knew I wanted to wear a Commanders jersey today. I didn't wear 5. I only wear 5 on Victory Mondays. We haven't won yet. But I did want to give some love. But here, I just want to show you guys. First off, the green shirt is very comfortable. But more importantly here, hang on, no, get a close up of this. I just want to show you guys. This is what the green shirt is. You know, what does that say, Jay Croucher?
It says NBC Sports.
Oh, yeah. So here you are dogging our parent company. I don't know why you hate NBC Sports. I love it. So sue me for being a company man. So sue me for loving where I work, Jay. I understand you're here under protest. You don't want to be here. You hate everyone that you work with, whatever.
Wow.
But some of us, like Connor's wearing a green T-shirt underneath as well. You know why? Because we both love NBC Sports. Where's that peacock? I want to hug that peacock. Oh, yeah.
I'm not making fun of NBC Sports. I'm making fun of your fashion sense and how you blend different colors. And now the green shirt is back, like Michael Myers at the end of Halloween Resurrection. It was a terrible piece of cinema.
What happened after I wore the green shirt under a Commander's jersey?
That's the thing.
We moved on.
It's now lucky.
Exactly.
It's
now a lucky combo.
After the Lions win by 14, it goes in the bin. Okay.
If the Lions lose this, the green shirt is going to be has its own shrine.
Legendary. It'd be legendary. Look.
What do you call
Lions
that
color? Lions are. I said this on the other show. Lions are 9.5-point favorites. Commanders haven't lost by more than 8 points anytime this year since week 1. The last time they lost by more than 8 points only once this entire year. That was week 1 against the Buccaneers, and they just beat them in the playoffs. Something to think
What do you
about.
call the color of the jersey? You call it
Burgundy and gold.
Burgundy? Okay.
Burgundy, I
I
think.
don't use the word burgundy as much.
Yeah, I mean it's more yellow. It's more but the traditional Washington football team colors are burgundy and gold.
Okay, burgundy on top of green.
Yes.
Delicious, like onions and chocolate.
Absolutely. We don't want to get into your palate. The way your weird Australian eating. Listen. Why don't you bring on some Spam and Foster's?
Your 2 favorite things. What was it, Vegemite we used to talk about for a while?
Vegemite's not good. People associate Vegemite with Australia, not realizing that it was something that was purely used because it stayed good during wars. That doesn't mean you should just have it in 2025. There's other options than war food. Yeah.
All I know is I'm going to have a great show because I'm super comfy in my beautiful green NBC Sports T-shirt.
Yeah, you look it.
We are going to have a great show. We're going to preview, of course, the divisional round games. We got DFS plays. We got some props we're keeping an eye on. Of course, the lines and totals. We got predictions coming up for next season's Fantasy Awards. We know everybody loved the Peacockys so much, especially our wardrobe department.
It's a big hit.
It was a huge hit. Everybody really came dressed to impress. So we're going to get a head start on the predictions.
We're not dressed to impress.
Still rattled by the long sleeve tuxedo shirt, which is very tight fit. Very tight fit. Very long sleeve.
It didn't feel that uncomfortable.
Oh, it's interesting. I say you bring back the king attire.
King outfit was good.
Plus scepter. We missed the scepter.
I don't know what I did with
show
it.
without the scepter.
It's somewhere. It was a miracle I found the tuxedo T-shirt. So.
Did you get that on the way to work? Or
No.
You had one handy.
I actually had one handy. I just couldn't find it from the year
standard
previously.
Tuesday attire.
Yeah. No, I had one handy. On my old ESPN show, we had done a bit with it, so I had it from that.
It survived that long.
It survived that long.
That's actually impressive.
I had to just find. I have a box full of stuff, of old ESPN stuff that I just took me a while to A, find the box, and then B, find the T-shirt in the box.
Love to know the thought process last year that led to the King outfit being purchased. Because it's not like it's an award show. Like, why do you dress like, during like Bradley Cooper goes to the Oscars, he's like, oh, maybe I'll wear my King outfit.
And everyone watching this is like, are you going to get to football? I promise we're going to get to football in just a second. But I will address Jay's question thusly. I think I explained it in the clip that we showed. Like, I couldn't, I was just like, oh, I have that tuxedo T-shirt. So I wake up in the morning to go to the show, and I can't find this ESPN box that I had. I thought it was in the basement. My wife had actually moved it to another part in our house. I didn't realize that until later. So I couldn't find the box, and it's getting late because I live over an hour away. So I had to like hustle. So I'm like, screw it, let me go. And I'm like, you know what? There's a Party City on the way to here in beautiful Stamford. So I Google. I'm like, oh yeah, it's just right off the highway. Great. So let's go there and I'll grab I'm sure they have another tuxedo shirt or whatever. They were out of everything, and so. Literally, I was just trying to look around. I was like, do I go as Mario or something a minion? Do I go as a Universal character or something like that?
Sonic.
I could have, Sonic could have gone as Sonic. I don't think they had a Sonic costume back then, but either way, it was what I was able to pull together in 10 minutes at a party at a decimated Party City that clearly had not been stocked.
Post-apocalyptic Party City.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's like Atlanta and Walking Dead season 1.
Yeah.
That's where you and I are different, see? Because I would have gone between the two options, like, oh, maybe I'll just wear a suit at NBC, and because it's an award show, I'll just wear a suit. But you were like, no, I'll get the King outfit with the scepter.
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
Yeah, you know why? Because I'm about the audience, Jay.
Yeah,
I can't.
true.
I was like, will this entertain the audience?
Sure.
I believe it will.
Well, that's fair. No,
I
you're
don't
right
mind
there,
being the
Matthew.
butt of jokes if it makes you laugh.
It was like the Luigi costume.
Yeah,
That's what they had. That's what I wear.
Exactly right.
Anything for content.
Yes.
All right, and with that, we're going to jump into Chiefs Texans. The Chiefs are favored now by 8.5 points. This line has moved in more favor of the Chiefs. The over-under is just 41.5 points. We got to hear from Patrick Mahomes on the playoff rematch against Houston.
I mean, obviously, it was the second time I'd played in the playoffs, and getting down like that, things could have went south really fast, but I was proud of the resilience of the guys, and that kind of carried us throughout that entire playoff run, is that we just had no doubts that we were going to find a way to win, and that was a really good football team, and we were able to come back and beat that team, and it kind of sprung us through that the rest of the playoffs to get that Super Bowl win.
What did you see from the Texans in that win against the Chargers?
Yeah, I think what everybody's kind of known, I mean, that defense is extremely real. They have a great quarterback and a great coach, and we knew when we played in this last time it was a hard-fought game, and they get after the quarterback really well. They have really good secondary players, and the linebackers fly around. So it'll be a great challenge for us, and we'll have to play our best football.
Mahomes obviously discussing the game from 2019 where they were down over 20 points.
24-0.
24-0.
Stevenson was over. I think they just led,
I know.
almost before halftime from memory or something.
That's what makes me nervous about this. 8.5 strikes me as a big number here, for a team that hasn't played football since Christmas. I could absolutely see them getting off to a slow start, but ultimately I'm sure they will prevail. You see some of the things, boy. Isaiah Pacheco is really interesting there at 5,500. We just don't know. He just hasn't looked the same. He hasn't gotten the usage coming into this game, but he's now had some rest. He's been back a lot, and Pacheco is who they rode throughout the playoffs last year.
Yep. I think the most interesting thing to me about the NFL betting playoff landscape is the fact that the market gives a massive, just immediate bump to the Chiefs in the playoffs. The idea that they have this extra gear, that Mahomes has an extra gear that they're saving for the playoffs, that Andy Reid is going to start calling more of the real plays, that Travis Kelce is going to get more usage. Because these teams played December 21 or something, and the line was 3.5 in Arrowhead, and now it's 8.5, and there are mitigating circumstances. There's no Tank Dell anymore. The Texans got destroyed by the Ravens in between, but they also, had the Chargers win too. And Mahomes was expected to be a bit gimpy in that game, but still, there's a massive change from 3.5 to 8.5 with the same teams. But in terms of how that's going to manifest itself in fantasy and prop markets, I think the most interesting thing is, what does Travis Kelce, does he get back to being the guy that he was in last year's playoffs?
Feels like they always lean on him. The other thing is that Mahomes played very well. Averaged 24.8 fantasy points per game in his last two full season games. Think about that Week 16 game against the Texans, where he averaged almost 24 fantasy points. So after a disappointing fantasy season by Mahomes standards, he finished the season strong. He's now had multiple weeks to prepare for this Texans defense. And so at just $6,000, by the way, if you're playing DFS on DraftKings, I like the value there because you look, I think certainly in GPPs, I think people will gravitate towards Goff or Daniels or Allen or Jackson, some of the more expensive, bigger name guys. And so I do think Mahomes, pretty cheap at $6,000, is going to be able to put up points against this Texans defense. He's going to be running for his life a little bit, and so I don't know that they're going to run effectively on Houston. It's going to be on Mahomes' arm.
Yeah. So, Connor, I think that the way this is going to go on Kansas City's offense is that obviously going to have seen the tape against the Chargers, what the Texans did there and how effective their pass rush was going up against the suspect Kansas City O-line. So expect it's going to be a lot of quick game. It's a lot of Mahomes getting the ball out in 2.4 seconds. So who do you think are the Chiefs that would benefit from that?
I think you play Hopkins tighter to the line of scrimmage like they used to do with Rashee Rice, and we saw them use Hopkins like that. And he had a quiet end of the season, but I think he'll be ready to roll for this. And, of course, Kelce. And I know that sounds cliche, but look at the Texans. They have two great edge rushers in Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, right? And then, so you got to be careful with deep drops. And they have two great corners in Kamari Lassiter and Derek Stingley that are really young and take away the football. So why would you want to throw deep outside the numbers? This is going to be, I could see Kelce getting 9, 10 targets. I could see Hopkins getting 7 targets. I think they got to attack the middle of the field. And like you said, Matthew, you hinted at, I wonder if we see Mahomes run more as he should do in the playoffs. Typically, he averages over 30 rushing yards per game in the playoffs. Yeah. I think that number's going to, I think that number's going to stay.
Anytime, when he gets to these do or die situations, playoffs or must-win games, like he's much more prone to just sort of like, screw it, I'm going to make this crazy run and make it happen. I also think Xavier Worthy is sort of interesting. Almost a 26% target share in his last full 3 games. And so you think about, again, trying to take pressure off, or their bubble screens, quick slants,
scheme
that kind
touches,
of stuff.
Yes.
Scheme touches, try to keep the defense off balance, give them some, one of my favorite prop bets, over the season when we had Chiefs games was like Xavier Worthy. This is one that I hit during one of the last Chiefs game that we had on Sunday Night Football was Xavier Worthy over 0.5 rushing yards, because they always give him a couple of rushing attempts, a couple of sweeps, or, just try to get the ball in his hand because he is so fast. I wonder if Hollywood Brown, who got like a 44% target share on his routes in the 2 games since he returned from IR, like they made a point of trying to integrate him into the offense once he came back, Jay.
Yep. And I think with Mahomes, to the point about the scrambling, his rushing prop is set at 24.5 yards on DraftKings. I might even skew to the over on that just because, one, Texans play a ton of man coverage. Texans, despite the fact that Justin Herbert didn't run the ball once, which I didn't really understand, the Texans were one of the worst teams all season in terms of allowing quarterbacks to run. And this is the thing, as you mentioned, Connor, every year in the playoffs, this is Mahomes' superpower. He scrambles more in the playoffs. It bears out statistically. He scrambled in the regular season on high leverage downs. He scrambles more as well, because it just makes sense logically. This is the playoffs. This is do or die. He's going to put his body more on the line. And so I think that he will be running the ball.
Yeah, that prop is set significantly below his game average in the playoffs. And it's because of recency bias. Like Mahomes wasn't an explosive runner this year, but in the playoffs it's just something different.
Houston's defense is interesting here as well, as we talk about the struggles of the offensive line on Kansas City. Those edge rushers, we know they're going to bring pressure. They're not going to try to get after Mahomes. And Mahomes, who's been inconsistent this year, again, hasn't played meaningful football since Christmas. That was the last time we saw Mahomes on an NFL field. So probably some rust early on. Going to be cold there as well. So I could see, the Texans defense is just 2,500 on DraftKings being an interesting play there as well.
Yeah, and on top of that, you bring up that defense. Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, to get a half sack, each of them, it's hovering right around -105, -110, a half sack for those guys. Now, the counter is Mahomes really didn't take any sacks the last 3 games of the year, but the middle of the season, he was sacked 4 times a game, 5 times a game. So this Chiefs offensive line, it's a big question going into the game.
Yeah. Who wins?
I think the Chiefs win. I would take Texans plus 8.5
a lot of points.
to cover.
I agree.
For a team that, people forget, the Chiefs were 4.5-point favorites over the Browns, very late in the season. This team loves to play one-score games. Maybe they do have this extra gear in the playoffs. So I think that the Chiefs, their run last year and the idea that they really flicked the switch was a little bit overrated. If Ray McLeod doesn't fumble a punt in the Super Bowl, they probably lose that game. They couldn't do anything on offense against a really good Ravens defense. Now they lit up the Bills, who had a really banged-up defense, and the Dolphins in the Ice Bowl, but I don't know. We'll see. There is a lot being baked into this line that the Chiefs are going to suddenly vault up and their power rating goes up 2.5, 3 points in the playoffs. And I don't know, I'd like to see it because this Texans defense is really good.
I agree with you. I think the Chiefs win, but I do like the Texans to cover. Honestly, I like all the underdogs to cover in this one. I don't. There's not a line here where I feel like the favorite is going to win this, And so I like all the underdogs. Maybe the Ravens to win, I guess. I do think the Ravens cover, but. Other than that,
Lamar seems like he's on a mission.
He does.
We'll get
He
to
does.
that.
So we'll get to that game. But, yeah, I think the Commanders cover, and I think the Rams cover. Anyway.
All right, our next one, of course, your Commanders, Matthew, at Detroit. Detroit 9.5-point favorites. The over-under in this one, totally different picture. 55.5 points. They were basically expecting 2 more touchdowns in this game in comparison to Texans, Chiefs. Been a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs down the stretch, although David Montgomery has been practicing this week. We get to hear from Gibbs on what he and the Lions learned from last playoffs.
I mean, I think we're a better team than we were last year. And overall, I mean, just me personally, I mean, I know what to expect now. So it's just a different feeling than me just going into it blind.
Another thing that's different from last year is you guys aren't really the underdogs anymore. You're the number 1 seed. Pretty much everybody focused on you. How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's probably, there's a lot of people out there still doubting us. So that's what we like. So it is what it is now.
He is he's more dynamic as a runner than he is as an interviewer. Wow. As a interviewee, I suppose.
Very business-like approach.
Very business-like.
Him, Montgomery, and Goff have had a lot of fun in the locker room pressers this year, but I think the tone has completely changed, Matthew, and it's probably Dan Campbell having these guys ready to roll.
Yeah, I mean, look, Montgomery is back, but still Gibbs with 4 straight games of 25 or more fantasy points. This is a game to target in fantasy lineup decisions. Both teams have offenses playing at very high levels. Both teams have defenses that have struggled. I read a story this morning that said the Commanders are expecting to have Marshawn Lattimore on Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm
bad.
like, good God, that's a terrible idea. He's going to get eaten alive.
Would you want him on Jameson Williams?
No,
That's the issue.
I mean, that's
Put
the
him on
issue.
Tim Patrick.
That's what you should do.
Which is a problem.
That's
You have
Tim
to have
Patrick's
other-
out there. Get out there.
If that's what I would want to do. Like the challenge is that the Commanders have been good at generating pressure without blitzing. Their offensive line is so good, and I think that's if there's a way to get to Goff, I mean, you have to pressure Goff. And so they may have to go, just sort of leave guys on an island. But if you're going to do that, I would put Sandra still on Jameson Williams.
You have to speed on speed.
I would put and I would put Lattimore on Tim Patrick, and then I would try to do whatever we could on Amon-Ra and try to push him off the line and just do whatever we could to disrupt that.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't feel like
Our linebackers have been okay this year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It doesn't feel like either team really has any answer for the opposing offense. So to me, kind of the most interesting part of this game and how it ripples.
Lions defense is getting healthier, though. I mean, they're going to get some guys back.
A little bit.
A little healthier.
Yeah, but the thing with the Lions defense is that it's not. It's smoke and mirrors in a way, I think, where they play a ton of man coverage, but they don't really have the horses to play man coverage. They're very aggressive with blitzing. And against Sam Darnold, that worked because they were able to get to Darnold within 3 seconds, and he just melted. But Jayden Daniels is going to be able to extend plays, and he's going to be able to get out of the pocket. So how do you think that works against the Lions defense?
You have to dedicate a linebacker to spy him full time, which is exactly what the Bucs did, and it limited his rushing. But credit to Jayden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury because it opened up more space in the field for him to efficiently throw the ball, and you can throw against this Lions team.
Yeah, I mean, he ended up getting 40 yards rushing on the dot against the Buccaneers, and then, of course, he took a knee, finished with 36, and killed my parlay that I gave out.
That's
unbelievable. I literally cashed it on that last play because it was Baker over 2, Commanders plus 3, and then Jayden Daniels for 40. He hits that to get that crazy first down to seal the game. Producer Damien and I are high-fiving in the room because we've just cashed the parlay, and then he takes a knee on the next. And my son lost a parlay as well, and I heard from a ton of people as well that leg just killed their parlay. Very upsetting. But to your point, Jay, and to your point, Connor, they do play a ton of man. They've also really struggled against rushing quarterbacks. The Lions have. They are top 5 in the NFL. I think they're 3rd most rushing yards allowed to opposing quarterbacks, but they're certainly top 5 in terms of most rushing yards allowed to opposing quarterbacks. And I think it's partially because of how they play, because they will blitz a lot and they will play man, which leads it to opportunities.
I wonder if they don't, though. The more I think about this game, do you treat them how teams are starting to treat Josh Allen, where you tell your front, you can rush but contain, like head up all the time. Don't overrush, because if you lose contain, this guy will kill you. Yeah. And he's effectively throwing. So it's one of those things where I wonder if they just play coverage and kind of sit and say, hey, we're going to
take our chances with Olamide Zaccheaus and Diami Brown.
Right, like make them beat us with 8 in coverage. And I know people hate the 3-man rush, so maybe it's a 4-man rush. But I think maybe Aaron Glenn has been one of the more pliable defensive coordinators I've seen in the NFL this year. He is truly a week-to-week guy. He's not a this is what we do guy.
Yeah, he's the anti-Jim Schwartz.
Right.
Where Jim Schwartz just did the same thing every single time. I do worry, like, as good a job as Aaron Glenn has done and as a masterful performance that was against the Vikings, like, San Francisco did whatever they wanted against the Lions. Josh Allen scored 48 points in his sleep against the Lions. Jordan Love put up over 30 against the Lions. Like, this is not a great pass defense. They've been okay against the run. So suspect that Daniels is going to get his, that McLaurin will get his. It's just the reason the line is 9.5 is that in theory, the advantages are even more pronounced on Detroit's side of the ball on offense.
Yeah, very possibly. Commanders haven't stopped anyone defensive. I mean, like, whatever. I mean, Baker Mayfield completed over 80% of his passes. The reason the Commanders won that game is time possession. They never punted. Buccaneers had 2 bad turnovers. Commanders didn't. I mean, Commanders turned the ball over twice on 4th down. But, they kept the ball a long time. They were able to move the ball in on it. They had the ball last.
Yep.
Had the Buccaneers had the ball last, they would have won that game. Those 2 turnovers killed it. And so can the Commanders get lucky and or generate a turnover or 2? Because this does feel like a game that sort of team that has the ball last wins.
Jay, how do you play a total this high when the spread's also this high? Because in theory you're thinking, and I think this desk has more belief in the Commanders than the market does, but the line should be running a lot in the second half, which affects the total. And 55.5 is as high as we have seen this year for the most part.
Yeah, and it's difficult for the market to set a line in this range where it can just get out of control. So what I would want to do betting this game is I just want to see what the Commanders look like on offense the first drive, because there is a chance that the Lions corners just can't hold up and that this looks like what the Bills did to the Lions and the Daniels as a quarterback who can buy extra time, that the Lions defense just breaks entirely. I think we know that Detroit's going to score. Detroit's going to score in this game. Their offense is too good. It's just a matter of are they scoring in the high 20s or in the high 30s? Are there turnovers? But in terms of betting the total, I'd want to just see how the Commanders look that first.
I wonder if you bet
drive.
again, I like the Commanders to cover the 9.5. I said this earlier. Again, they've lost one game all year by more than 8 points, and that was week 1 against the Buccaneers, who they just beat. That's the only game all year that they've lost by more than 8 points, and this game's 9.5. They very well may lose this game, but I don't think they'll lose it by over 9 points. I could easily see a backdoor cover on this one.
Sure.
This is a team that just does that fights till the very last second. Crazy stat how the Commanders has won on the last possession, on the last play of the game, each of the last 5 games. Like, it's just sort of insane there. I feel like maybe you bet the Commanders team total here.
Yeah.
Like, to your point, like, it's 55.5, but the Lions are 9.5 point favorites. It's just,
something's got to give.
Something's got to give there, and just maybe you bet over on the Commanders team total, because we do think Washington will be able to move the ball. Just in terms of some of these plays here, I love Amon-Ra St. Brown at 7,200. Look, so far this year he's got a 27% target share again, and if it's true that they're going to stick Marshawn Lattimore on him, and Quinn addressed that this year. He's just like, because they were like, he struggled, and he's just like, no, his toughness is ready, and Quinn said all the right things, but I'm like, Marshawn Lattimore is either still hurt, still rusty, or just toast, or maybe it's a combination thereof. Right. But like, he didn't stop Evans at all. He looked bad.
He couldn't move with him.
No.
That's what's actually more surprising. Like, when Evans climbs the ladder on you, it's like he's Mike Evans.
Right.
When you can't run with Mike Evans,
It's not that fast.
No.
That's not his game.
Right.
He just didn't have the lateral agility that Marshawn Lattimore.
Which is the problem, because Amon-Ra St. Brown is faster.
That's exactly my
he's
point.
in the
Like,
slot with a two-way go.
And Lattimore doesn't normally play the slot, so I don't know if they're just saying that as kind of a smoke screen.
Or build his confidence, but in the game we're going to be a little more careful than that.
Yeah.
But like we said, though, do you want him on Jamison Williams, who's faster?
No, I mean, you'd have to give him safety help. I don't know. That's, to me, the answer is Sanders still on Jamison Williams. Put him on Tim Patrick, and do whatever you can on Amon-Ra in the middle with a couple of our linebackers or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Commanders' team total is 23.5. I would say that the way that goes under is if they just don't have the ball and that Detroit just destroys time of possession. Because if you told me that the Commanders have the ball for 28 minutes, then I'd be very confident that they're going over 23.5. But there is a chance that they just won't, and it'll look like
they have
Bills,
struggled
Denver.
against the run at various points this year. They really have. They're gonna have to just dedicate themselves to running the ball. But listen, they shut down Saquon Barkley for basically 3.5 quarters. Like they can do it, but there are times where they just get decimated. Sam LaPorta is interesting. 8 straight games with at least 6 or more targets, 20% target share. Commanders really struggle against tight ends. I could see LaPorta having a nice game here.
Yeah, and he was a touchdown machine down the stretch of the regular fantasy season as well. All right, guys, let's move to our next game here. The Rams at the Eagles. This line's now up to the Eagles, favored by 6 points. The over-under right back down 43.5, especially with how the Eagles can run the ball and stop the run as well. And speaking,
I think it opened at 45.5. Right, so it's been trending down. That makes sense.
Weather.
Outdoor. I'm sorry, what?
It's going to be weather in Philadelphia. It's going to be very cold, I think.
Well, listen, as somebody who's going to be on the sideline for Football Night in America,
many don't like the
I'm
cold
very
either.
excited about that. Should I bring the green T-shirt?
Yeah.
Would you ever be a wool hat on TV guy?
I might have to.
Oh, how about earmuffs?
I don't know. That's the problem. So we are doing that. So Football Night in America. That's our game. NBC's game is Rams at Philadelphia on Sunday. It's the first game on Sunday, and we are all traveling. Football Night in America. So we will be at the link live. For the pregame. I think it starts at 2 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, and
live at 2 on the cock.
Live at 2 on the cock and on NBC
and on linear.
Yes, and on NBC Sports. So I'm company man. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Because Rodney Harrison, he doesn't care. He'll wear earmuffs and the whole thing because he's Rodney Harrison. Right. He doesn't care.
People won't question his toughness.
No one questions Rodney Harrison's touchdown. Yeah. And but Jason Garrett and Tony Dungy tend not to. And I think it's maybe the old school coach mentality in them. Right. They're gonna tough it out. I don't know what to do.
Do they warm up sleeveless, like they do practice runs sleeveless, like a player does stretching? Yeah. You should. That would be a good look for you.
Maybe I should do that with headphones.
Yeah.
Just again, go full Njoku. Just trying to have somebody throw me a mic.
Never go full Njoku.
And I got the headphones on.
Go half Njoku. Yeah. It's forecast 39 degrees and chance of snow.
Oh, good God.
39's
so we're
fine.
I'm sure they'll have a hat and
with a hat. It'd be hilarious.
Should I? Here's the question. Do I go for the goofiest look, hat and earmuffs, and just own it, but my fear is that with that show and that audience, here, whatever, I'll do whatever because the audience here gets it. If you're watching this show, you are a fan of the three of us. You're a fan of Lawrence. You get the goofiness of this show of a bunch of dudes in a bar talking about fake football and sports betting.
Channel 4 is different.
There's gonna be 20 million people.
It's the fourth channel on television.
It's
People
what I mean?
glance up at the bar and they say, "Oh, Matthew Berry's washed. He's wearing earmuffs."
Right. I think what I will do. I just don't think they'll get the joke, and I'll just look like a wimp. I'll just look like such a, pansy. And so I think what I will do, if I'm being 100% honest with you guys and us at home, so again, this is just between us. What I will do is I will have earmuffs and a wool knit hat on the sideline.
Yes.
But then when it's time to come on, I'll take it off, do my little hit, and get off. Because I'm not. Be honest with you, I'm not on that long. You know what I mean?
This is manageable.
Blinking, you missed me. I only do 2 segments on the show, and neither are particularly long. And so, it's not like I'm like Garrett, who's got to be out there for 6-8 minutes at a stretch. It's going to be a couple of minutes.
Jumping in an ice
couple
bath.
Minutes here, a couple minutes there.
Cold plunge.
Yeah, it's like jumping in an ice bath and then getting out.
Yeah,
that's
what I think.
Of the sideline.
That's what I think I will do. That's what I think I will do. It depends on how rainy it is. I may go umbrella if it's super rainy.
I'm interested to see your hits now because I don't know what you like in the cold. You could be like Tua in the ice bowl last year.
That could be bad.
Yeah.
Barry just fumbled it again.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Get Saquon's name wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Saquon Barkman.
Yeah, stand by because they might be, after the first hit, they're like, listen, you just don't have it. Jay Croucher's coming in. Jay Croucher's coming in for the second hit.
Tyler Huntley off the sidelines.
Exactly.
Yeah,
When we were trying to figure out where we might wind up, meaning football night, we were all rooting for Detroit. we wanted the Lions game, not because the Rams-Eagles game won't be great. It's going to be awesome. But it's just that's indoors.
Yeah.
Right.
It's indoors,
Climate control.
Yes.
It's key for television.
And I personally wanted to that'd be amazing. I'd get to go see the, Commanders-Lions game, and I'd
that
get
atmosphere,
to be indoors.
Well, Philadelphia's atmosphere is insane too. So
If we're going to, at least I will say on the positive Philadelphia, though, Kansas City's going to be just as cold, and it's a longer flight.
Right.
And Buffalo's going to be even worse.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, in terms of
That's gonna be a
outdoor
good game.
conditions, it's going to be an amazing game. Well, I wish we had Ravens-Bills because it's going to be a great game for NBC purposes. But for my selfish, I'm going to be cold as hell on the sideline purposes, Philadelphia, I think, we'll be okay. It's going to be cold. It is what it is.
Matthew's not the only one game planning for the conditions in Philadelphia. Sean McVay talked about preventing a repeat of Saquon Barkley running wild on them all over again.
I think first and foremost, you got to give them credit. I mean, they did an excellent job. And then there were some things where we certainly could have put our guys in some better spots. And then there were some things where we misfit some runs. And then, the last one that he broke out, we were in a 0 blitz and he broke through the line of scrimmage and there's no one left and he's got the speed to finish. That's the thing that makes Saquon so special. He's patient. He hits you for a couple of those runs. But if he gets clean to the second and third levels, he's such a slash runner and he's got the speed to finish. That's why he's such a dynamic player. So I think our sense of urgency will be appropriate for the task at hand this week, and we love it, and we're looking forward to it, but we got a ton of respect for this group.
That was Sean McVay from the Sean McVay Show. Very famous show. I don't know if it's still running.
So animated. It's
Yeah,
great.
where do you think they came up with the title?
It's creative. It's a good one. Yes.
Yeah.
More importantly,
Sean McVay on the Sean McVay Show starring Sean McVay.
yes, I think the Giants do the same thing with Brian Dable.
Maybe.
I think he has the Brian Dable Show.
Not as many viewers.
Yeah.
Right,
Well,
the
not
Brian
as many
Dable Show starring
enthused
Brian
viewers.
Dable.
That one might have got canceled.
The issue for Sean McVay is like, how do you game plan for the other people being bigger than your people? Like, it doesn't.
Yes.
It's not like the Eagles run super complicated,
No,
super
it's just
complicated
effort.
running scheme. They're just bigger and stronger, and Barkley's faster. So I don't really see why this would look that different.
No, I mean, the Rams made this decision in the offseason when they built this defensive line, which the awesome part of it is we saw they can get after the quarterback. They're
Yeah, they can.
explosive. They're quick off the ball. Even their interior guys like Braden Fisk had 8.5 sacks this year. The downside of that is when you play a team with mammoths across the board on the offensive line, you get punched in the mouth against the run, and you have to dedicate more linebackers and safeties.
Yeah.
That's the answer. You can't change who plays for your defensive line.
I mean, if I was Sean McVay, I'd basically say, like, I'm going to make Jalen Hurts beat me.
Yes,
I'm going
you
to
have to.
do whatever I can to stop.
Eight-man box. That's what it's called.
8 in the
Yeah.
box. Yeah, it is what it is. We'll stick AJ Brown and Devontae Smith on islands, and we'll hope that we can get to Jalen Hurts and just beat him and hopefully he makes a decision. The Rams have had a lot of turnovers this year, and can we get lucky? Can we force them into a pick or a dumb decision? And try to grind out a win. I think as we mentioned, it was 45.5. It's lowered now over under 43.5. I think I'd still take the under in this one. It's an outdoor game in cold weather, divisional round. Just feels like this is a grinded out game on both sides.
Yep.
Neither team plays at a high pace either.
Yeah.
Right.
To your point, in terms of making Hurts beat you, this is like the football equivalent of just leave like Jaylen Brown wide open to shoot threes every time because there's nothing else that you can do. And yeah, he shoots like 38% on threes. You're probably going to lose that way, but it's better to lose to the variance of at least the ball going in the air as opposed to Saquon Barkley just running for 7 yards a carry. So I think that like Jalen Hurts' passing prop, his attempts prop is like 25.5. Like it's extremely low. I would think that McVay will want to make him throw the ball. And yeah, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith single covered. You're probably going to lose that way, but at least it's a path that you can potentially win.
Right. Your man Quentin Lake hopefully can come up with
the Lake Show.
Yes. Cashing that Sam Darnold interception.
The Lake House.
Exactly.
Keanu Reeves,
Barkley. Listen, Barkley's had at least 27 touches of his last 3 games. So, it's one of those things. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Like, Barkley's going to get his opportunities. I think he's going to be successful here as well. Be interesting to see what happens on the other side of the ball with Kyren Williams. Like, just do they? This is going to be a true. You talked about the Lions trying to dominate time possession. Both teams here are going to try to dominate time possession, and that's one of the things that the Eagles do so well. It's just they run the ball. They run the ball. They run the ball. They run the ball. When they need to do a quick out to one of the wide receivers, they'll do it. But whether it's Hurts on a design run or mostly Barkley, like they keep the ball and they just grind you down.
All right, guys, our final game here, and this is a big one. The Ravens.
By the way, Puka, his line is 7.5. I think I'd take the under on the receptions there. He didn't get there against the Vikings.
He had the targets.
Right. Yeah. They're so good in the secondary.
Yeah. There's also a chance that the Eagles have the ball for 40 minutes as well.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I would go under that this week as well.
Yeah. This is a game the last thing I'll say here is I just do think, and we'll talk a little bit more about this coming up in Best Bets, but I I think that the way the Rams play this is they're going to force Jalen Hurts to hurt. So I do think Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown have good games fantasy-wise if you're looking there. Not with Kyren Williams, you're hoping that he falls into the end zone. He led all running backs in red zone touches this year, but still, like, they're so good on the defensive front.
Maybe after the whole book sideline incident, we get A.J. Brown going early?
Yes. Yeah, we'll talk more about that coming up in Best Bets.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, our
Good
last game.
Connor.
The Ravens are favored against the Bills by only 1.5. It's at Buffalo. The over-under is 51.5. And, of course, all eyes are on the MVP race this year. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson spoke on the big matchup.
I mean, I think in the history of football, I've never really played against another quarterback. I've played against their defense, and just taking it one day at a time, trying to have a good week of practice, and then controlling what I can control. And it's attitude and effort, and it's how we come out here and just try to put our best foot forward and try to execute on Sunday.
Do you kind of get the sense that this game is the main event this weekend? This is sort of the matchup that everybody wants to see?
Excuse me for everyone watching, but I really don't care who's watching. And to me, like us players, we just trying to win. We really don't care like how people feel about it. We trying to go in there and just win. That's a tough environment, tough team, offense, defense, special team. We just trying to go there and win.
These guys are locked in. They wanted none of the
you versus Allen, blah, blah,
no.
blah. Even though there's the quarterback on the other side of the draw has two. You have three Super Bowl rings, including 2 straight. But it's you versus Allen.
Yeah.
As well. I like that Lamar. I feel like Lamar always takes the press in that. What would you call that hood thing?
That's what you're going to be wearing on Sunday.
Yeah, I might be.
That's actually another.
Maybe I should do that. I can do that. The Lamar.
Yeah. You'll have a traditional ski mask.
Yeah. Maybe I should do just a full ski mask with just the eyes and the little mouth.
That would be not great. Yeah, it's like a mix.
I think you're robbing the place. You don't need any more security.
I was going to say it's like a mix between a warmth device and looking like a character in The Town with Jeremy.
Right. I would probably go viral if I did that.
Yeah.
If I just
we think that's Matthew Berry.
The little eyes and the.
Oh man.
Atrocious.
Something to think about.
Something to think about as well. He always does it. I just feel like he's. Either way, in this game, I mean, they blew him out earlier in the season, but the Bills' defense, they've got Matt Milano back. They're a lot healthier than when they played Baltimore the first time. I think it'll be a different effort from the Bills.
So how much do you think that the availability of the Bills players on defense, the fact that Milano is back, the fact that the linebacking core is different, how much does that change the matchup? Because it still feels like Baltimore is still just bigger and stronger than this Bills
It just
defense.
doesn't move the needle for me. And Milano's still a good player.
He's not the same, though.
He's not the same.
He hasn't played in like 2 seasons.
He's not the same guy, and it doesn't really matter who you put out there. Like, who is going to stop this running combination and the way this offensive line is playing right now? They've gotten good tackle play out of the rookie Roger Rosengarten. They have a stout interior. Like, it's just they have to outscore the Ravens. What else is there to say?
How much do you think that Flowers likely being out or compromised really compromises the Ravens' offense, or is it just that between Bateman, likely Andrews, they're not so dependent?
He takes away an extension of the run game, and that's the screen game, the tunnel screen game, the bubble screens, the jet sweeps, the jet motion. So that's where it hurts you, is that I think he makes things more horizontal, where we know Henry and Lamar can go downhill. But at the end of the day, like, once again, Bateman's had some moments. Likely's had some moments. Andrews has been better the second half of the season. So it is a factor, though.
Yep.
It is a factor.
Yeah, all those things will play into it. But I think it's one of those weird things that normally you'd be like, man, Buffalo, tough place to play. You don't want to go in there. But I actually think this is a weird one where it helps the Ravens because, again, you just think in a close game, and Ravens are favored by 1.5, but in a close game on either side of the ball, it's going to be cold and rainy and wet in Buffalo. It's going to be cold either way. And, like, you're just in the fourth quarter and you've just been trying to tackle Derrick Henry 15, 16 times, and now you get into the fourth quarter and it just wears you down. And this is a place where I do think the weather actually comes into play. As you see there, Derrick Henry had 24 rush attempts for 199 yards in that Week 4 game against Buffalo as well. He's had 4 straight games with 160 total yards dating back to the regular season. This is the game he was acquired for.
Right.
In all seriousness, like they're like, we're going to need you to go into Buffalo and then go into Kansas City and just beat them up.
Yep. Selfishly, I need the Bills to win this game financially, but I don't feel good at all. And I think there's a chance that the Ravens, like if you would tell me one team blows out the other, like I'd be stunned if Buffalo like blew out the Ravens. But the other way, I wouldn't be that surprised given that we've already seen it. Like they beat them 35-10 back in week 4. And yeah, these teams are different, but I do worry that this isn't the best matchup for the Bills just because of that Ravens running game in particular.
I will say though, these are two good offenses and two I think both offenses operate at a higher level than both defenses.
By far,
I think both teams will be able to move the ball against each other. 51.5 over under. So, it's the second highest total game on the slate. And so you certainly like, especially if Flowers is out, he hasn't practiced as of this taping, hasn't practiced yet this week. You certainly think Bateman's interesting, Henry and Jackson, of course. Bill's side of the ball, the problem is they spread the ball around so much.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper's receiving line is 20 yards.
His receptions is 2.5.
That's sort of interesting to me. I mean, I feel like, a veteran there, but certainly Khalil Shakir, who has twice as many targets as any other Bills pass catcher last week. Shakir's the one guy you feel the best about in that Bills passing attack. I don't think they'll be that effective running the ball with James Cook against the Ravens, so it's going to have to be on Josh Allen's arms and legs here.
Yeah. I do worry a bit about the Bills' defense and the fact that statistically over the course of the season they were a good defense, but when they came up against the lead offenses, they gave up 40+ to the Rams and the Lions in back-to-back weeks. And this Ravens defense, which was not great in the first half of the season, over the second half of the season, they were just about the best pass defense in the NFL after being the best defense overall in football last year, and they've been a great run defense the whole year. So I just don't really know what the flaws of this team are. I think the Ravens are the best team in football. That's reflected in the line, the fact that they are 1.5-point favorites in Buffalo. Buffalo opened 1-point favorites, immediately flipped to Baltimore. So sharps out there think that the Ravens win.
Yeah, the back end of this Ravens defense is a lot different than what we were in fantasy talking about against, like Kyle Hamilton playing more free safety. Nate Wiggins is healthy, the rookie corner.
That switching Hamilton seems to have really made a difference.
It's made a huge difference. Marlon Humphrey could play more of the slot.
Yep.
It's just a lot trending the right way for Baltimore, and that's why they're favored against a great Bills team.
But it's going to be a great day. It's going to be a great day of football, honestly, all weekend long, but especially Sunday, starting on NBC and then finishing up with Ravens at Bills.
Sunday, the NFL playoffs continue with the divisional round. Matthew Stafford and the Rams head to Philly to take on Saquon Barkley and the Eagles. The winner will be one step away from the Super Bowl. It's the NFC Divisional, presented by Intuit TurboTax. Sunday,
Jalen Hurts can't
Eastern,
get on the graphic. What's going on?
NBC and Peacock. Taking our first break. When we're back, we're looking ahead to next year's Fantasy Awards. What's on tap is up next. Can't really deny anybody.
Is he tap dancing? What's Peacocky doing? He's doing a little shuffle there.
This is a big one.
Yeah,
yep, go off.
The Harlem Shuffle. You've heard it. It's the Stanford Shuffle. It's the Stanford Shuffle.
There you go. He's doing the robot. Look at him.
Nice.
Oh, hey.
Is there anything Peacocky can't do? And the fantasy MVP goes to Ja'Marr Chase. Yes, Ja'Marr Chase. Well deserved.
What's on tap is brought to you by Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the NFL. Sundays are easy to enjoy when they are full of football and the fridge is filled with beer, or if you are a recipient of one of the most prestigious awards in all of sports. That's right.
Yes.
The Peacockys. Here are our winners. Josh Allen had the fantasy game of the year. Chubby Magic, Chuba Hubbard was the best value pick. Bucky Irving was the best waiver wire pickup. Brock Bowers was rookie of the year. Jahmyr Gibbs, fantasy playoffs MVP. Tyreek Hill, the biggest bust.
Congrats, Tyreek.
Yeah, you really earned that one. Jayden Daniels, breakout player of the year. And, of course, the fantasy MVP for the whole season, Ja'Marr Chase.
Number one in your hearts, number one on the field.
And here are the past winners. Ja'Marr Chase, obviously, took home the 2024 prestigious Peacocky. Christian McCaffrey, 2023. And friend of the show, Austin Eckler, was the 2022 fantasy MVP, which leads us to our predictions for next year, Matthew. Where are you putting your stake on?
How about Puka Nacua?
Sure.
Look, you think about the final 8 games of the year, weeks 10 through 17, averaged over 22 fantasy points per game. He had a 39% target share. A 39% target share over that stretch. And Cooper Kupp is either hurt or completely washed or maybe both. But, it's all Puka. Every single time Stafford is looked, we expect Stafford to be back. And I just think the only knock on Puka is can he stay healthy? And so that's a concern. But seeing just how efficient this offense is and just how often he gets looked for, I think because of the injury concerns, he'll go a little bit further down in drafts than maybe he should. He'll still be a second rounder at the worst, likely a late first rounder. But give me Puka Nacua for next year's fantasy MVP.
Okay. I'm taking Patrick Mahomes, who I think is going to be a bit written off going into drafts next year, given that he's coming off 2 somewhat subpar seasons. But 2022, Mahomes was the real-life MVP. He had one of the great fantasy seasons of all time as well. I think his offensive line will get fixed. They'll get Rashee Rice back as well. So I think Mahomes still has a top 2 fantasy season in him at the quarterback position.
I'm going to take Malik Neighbors in year 2. Malik Neighbors was amazing this year as a rookie with Daniel Jones, Tim Boyle at times, Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock. If the Giants can figure out, and they have to, that's why Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen are kept, to get a quarterback that is not a star, just viable at playing point guard, Malik Neighbors, I think, can be a superstar in fantasy next year.
Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, he's with the Jets.
I know.
Yeah.
But he's
going to cost
a return. He can come back.
Going to cost you.
Might be Shadur Sanders.
Yeah, we'll see.
They already have played catch in the streets of New York City.
Oh, there you go.
Breakout player of the year. The past winners, Jayden Daniels took it home this year. Well earned from Jayden Daniels. Kyren Williams, 2023's winner. And Tony Pollard in 2022. What was your prediction for next year, Matthew?
My prediction for next year, Nico Collins. Nico. I feel like he would have happened this year had he not gotten hurt. But the concerns going into this season, well, they've got Tank Dell, they've got Stephon Diggs, and even when all 3 were out there, he was still an alpha. I think C.J. Stroud will be better next year than he was this year. Nico Collins is a special player. He's as good as any of the elite wide receivers in the NFL. He just doesn't have the name recognition because he plays in Houston, because he was hurt so much this year. But in his healthy, full games over the past 2 years, he's averaging almost 19 fantasy points per game. He got 50% of the team's end zone targets in his healthy games this year. So give me Nico Collins to break out and become an elite number 1 wide receiver all throughout next season.
Okay, I'll take the home run swing and go Anthony Richardson. I saw enough from Richardson after the benching to think that he had made real strides. Now, the health concerns are always going to be an issue, but just in terms of variance, there's not that many guys who you could see foreseeably becoming like the number 1 player in fantasy. And Anthony Richardson, that's a low likelihood, but it's within the range of outcomes just because of his upside.
I'm going to take someone that hasn't played a snap in the NFL, and that's Ashton Genty. He will be a first-round pick at the running back position. He was unbelievable for Boise State the last 2 years, and if a team is using a first-round pick on him, hopefully, I know the Falcons kind of fooled us with Arthur Smith, it's to be the workhorse, bell cow, 1A running back. Ashton Genty, I really hope he goes to the Vikings, actually, because Aaron Jones is on a 1-year deal. He steps in, be a superstar for that offense.
Would be a lot of fun, no doubt.
Our
doubt.
Our final one, 2025 Comeback Player of the Year. Let's take a look here at our predictions. I know we don't have our previous ones right now. Matthew, this is a tricky one because it could be a player that got hurt. It could be a player that just fell off the face of the earth this year. What direction are you going?
I think it's got to be Joe Flacco. Right?
I was waiting for that.
Come on, it's got to be Joe Flacco, comeback player of the year. He always is. He's always deserving. Doesn't matter.
The Redux.
Yeah, the Redux. I'm going to say Rashee Rice. Right? Coming off of a massive injury, I think people have sort of forgotten about the fact that his 3 full games prior to injury was averaging 21.6 fantasy points per game, had a 34% target share. He was wide receiver 5 in points per game over the last 9 games he's played. To your point about a bounce back year from Mahomes, Rashee Rice is going to be part of that as well. So I'll say Rashee Rice.
Okay, I'll go with the original Chubbler, Nick Chubb himself. Chubby Magic gets a sequel with Nick Chubb. I think that another year removed from that brutal leg injury and the fact that the O-line just has to be better and the quarterback position just has to be better than it was his previous year, I think Chubb can bounce back.
I'm going to take Justin Fields because I think he'll be a starter next year somewhere. And when he was starting for the Steelers, he was a viable fantasy quarterback. So Fields, he'll sign somewhere where he has the best chance to start. This is a weak quarterback draft, which means there's not enough supply of quarterbacks for teams that need a starter, which means Fields will be one in 2025.
For your Jets. How about for your Jets?
I wouldn't rule it out. Him and Tyrod. What a fun summer it's going to be.
That'd be great.
With Arthur Smith as the head coach.
Yeah, exactly. Amazing.
We're all excited.
Aaron Rodgers. Just hire Aaron Rodgers as your head coach and get it over with.
He already is.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Just give the man the job. He's doing it. Give him the title.
That'll do it for What's on Tap. Presented by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. We're taking our last break. When we're back, it's time for Last Call. Our favorite player props for the divisional round. DraftKings Sportsbook is the #1 place to bet touchdowns, and new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use promo code Barry when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook.
The crown is yours.
The crown is yours.
And the crown is yours. It's time for last call. Let's take a look at the most bet player props on DraftKings right now. A whole lot of Isaiah Pacheco alternate rushing yards with Lamar Jackson sprinkled in for over 52.5 rushing yards. Jay, what are you looking at across the board?
Taking Travis Kelce over 52.5 receiving yards. He averaged 89 per game in the playoffs last year, went 70 plus each time. To your point, Connor, I think they're going to use quick game, middle of the field a lot with Kelce. His last game against the Steelers, the last game that the Chiefs played, where they were playing all their guys, Kelce had 11 targets, 84 yards and a touchdown. Seems like they were ramping him up. I think that he will go 53 plus here.
What do you like, Matthew?
Look, a lot's been made about A.J. Brown reading a book on the sideline. So give me A.J. Brown, first quarter, alt receiving yards, 10. And I'm also going to ladder bet it up to 15. At 15, it's plus 105, right? It's plus money there. For the season, he's got a 30% target share in the first quarter. He's got a 42% target share on first drives. And you think about that game against the Steelers. That was the week after the Carolina game. Remember, he didn't do much in the Carolina game, and A.J. Brown sort of chirped off. Squeaky wheel. In that game against Pittsburgh, he went 4 for 48 with a touchdown, a 50% target share. So much has been made about his lack of production and the book. They're going to make a point to get A.J. Brown the ball, especially early. Give me 10 yards for A.J. Brown in the first quarter, and I ladder bet it up to 15.
It's been a fruitful strategy this year.
Yes.
Malik Neighbors one time.
Yeah.
You had it going. It's worked out really well. I'm taking Jared Goff over 23.5 completions. That's where the number is set at. He did this 4 of his last 5 games this season. Baker Mayfield completed over 83% of his passes against Commanders. He just didn't have the attempts.
Yes, he did.
I think there'll be more scoring in this game because I think Jayden Daniels will be able to answer against the Lions defense, which means there'll be enough throw attempts for Goff to get over 23.5.
By the way, just bonus bet here as long as we're talking about Jared Goff. I also kind of like him under to not throw an interception. So under 0.5 interceptions. He hasn't thrown an interception in 5 of his past 7 home games. Commanders don't really do that well. They're tied for 26th in terms of interceptions this season. It's not a defense that takes the ball away. Goff has been so clean. I don't think he throws a pick on Sunday.
Yeah.
Saturday night. I hope I'm wrong.
All of his stats are just inflated by that ridiculous 5 interception game against Houston. Outside of that, he really hasn't thrown picks.
Yeah.
Pretty much all year.
He's been terrific. And again, just the Commanders, it's not they are to be generous, a bend don't break defense. I'm being generous there. You know what that music means? It's closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. For Jay Croucher, Connor Rogers, and my green t-shirt, I'm Matthew Berry. We'll see you Sunday in Philadelphia. Peace out. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotorWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.